And good Sunday evening. My name is Howie Silbiger. Welcome to the Howie Silbiger Show, right here on the True Talk Radio Network. So happy to be here with you. I know you are happy to be here with me, and I know together we're going to have a great show. That I know for sure. Sheldon Eric Freed is going to be joining me in just a couple of minutes, and I have to tell you the first thing on my mind is that horrible disaster that happened in Israel on Friday. It is an unbelievable disaster. There were two people from Montreal who were killed in that. Well, the media is calling it a stampede. It wasn't really a stampede. A stampede implies that there was an intentional desire to run in a certain direction and trample people. That's not what happened. It was an accident. It was an overcrowding of a limited spaced area, and it was an accident. I don't think anybody intentionally tried to kill anybody. So calling it a stampede is really a misnomer, and it's a misnomer. Sorry, not a misdemeanor. It should be. It's a misnomer, and it's really wrong of the media to be depicting this as an intentional event that killed people. It wasn't intentional. Now, I spoke to some people today who are close to the families of the Montrealers that were killed in this horrific event in Israel, and the details of what happened to these people is just too horrific to repeat. It's absolutely horrific. I'll just tell you one thing that I heard. I mean, it's just one of the many things that were told to me today. The bodies of the people who were killed in this horrific accident were so mangled and so destroyed that their families couldn't identify them. They had to be identified by DNA. That's how bad it was. So my heart goes out to the families of the people who were killed. My heart goes out to all Jews, because we are all connected. We're all brothers and sisters. And when one Jew dies, everybody feels it. So 45 souls were taken, and my heart goes out to all those people. May they be spared any further sorrow. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. 1-877-669-1292. I'm Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show, right here on the True Talk Radio Network. I'm going to be joining Sheldon Freed into the conversation in just about a minute. I want to say that, thank God, we are now an hour and a half. We've been given an hour and a half of life back. You see, the government has stolen our lives, and now they're returning an hour and a half of it to us. It is so kind of them. They've pushed the curfew in Montreal to 9:30 p.m. from 8 o'clock. So now I've actually aged. I'm no longer 13 years old. Now I'm 15 years old. So it's good to know that I've aged up from 13 to 15, and my curfew is now 9:30. I'm very happy to be 15 years old again. It's been a long time, and it's even been longer for Sheldon Eric Freed. Hi, Sheldon. It's been a long time since you've been 15, hasn't it, Sheldon?
I never looked at it that way, but yes.
I mean, now we've aged up. We're 15.
I have less of a curfew from my parents than I do for the government.
maybe soon, Sheldon. Maybe soon. We'll hit 20, Sheldon. Maybe we'll be 20 years old soon.
It's amazing how we so much wanted to feel young again, and I really didn't take this into consideration. The government wants us to feel young again. I mean, that's the thing.
It's very nice of the Legault government to try to make us feel like teenagers. It's amazing. Look, the last time I had to be home for 9:30, I was 15 years old.
Now I know how Cinderella felt when she had to be home by midnight.
Yeah, exactly. And she was what? She was 13 or 14 years old in that story. And she got to stay out later than we get to stay out, Sheldon. So you tell me, how does this work? I don't understand.
That makes two of us. I have absolutely no idea. It was like, I mean, honestly, yeah. You see, that's why I was just saying off air to you. I was just saying, so tell me, Howie, how does it feel to get that extra hour and a half curfew back?
It feels amazing. Look, when you're a kid, you always want to get older, right? When you're old, you always want to be younger. When you're a kid, you always want to be older.
Absolutely.
So I've been 13 years old for a few weeks already, and now I'm so happy that I've aged up to 15. And now soon, Sheldon, I'm convinced that soon I'll be legal. I'll be able to drive, and then I'll be even more legal. I'll be able to drink and gamble, Sheldon. I'm getting there.
Oh my God,
I'm
Howie,
getting
I
there,
never
Sheldon.
thought you would be in it. I can't
I'm
believe
getting
it.
there.
I can't believe it. Really, I just can't believe it. I'm telling you, celebrate. I mean, we have to celebrate now. We're getting into summer, and we still have to be in before the sun sets at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Isn't it amazing?
It's amazing.
I feel so good.
Oh, the tears
I'm
on
so
my eyes, Howie.
excited.
Can't you see? Can't you see the seriousness in both of us? Not.
You know, you get to a point, Sheldon, where being serious doesn't make sense anymore, right?
It does explain the reason why we both have gray hair.
Yeah, I guess it does.
The government's doing things for us.
Maybe that's why. Maybe it's the government, the stress of having to be home for 9:30.
And it's also amazing too that the government always never has the money to pay teachers, infrastructure, social programs, and everything.
Why would they? Come on.
You know, as I was seeing in the news today, but they always have the money to enforce the French language and put millions of extra dollars in the budget for 10 to 15% of the Quebecers that are utterly linguistic racist. That they have the money for. But when teachers that have to teach these students to be good citizens, to get into different professions and make this world a better place, for health care workers that have been in and day out, that were caring for the ill, as they always do, but now with the pandemic, they even had to care more. Their resources were strapped to the max. Operating rooms closed, concept, Sheldon, but they always have the money to enforce the French language.
I don't understand the concept of linguistic racists. Language isn't a race. How could you be a racist when it comes to language?
Well, you know, it always seems that the government, there's a couple things. Racist acts, because when a city like Montreal, which is the largest city in the province of Quebec for people that are not from here, when they did not elect the present government that's in power now, the government decides to take it out of Montreal. Furthermore, Bill 101 is directed solely for the people of Montreal. That's a, quote, cosmopolitan city, according to the different mayors that have led the municipal elections and have become mayors of this wonderful city that we live in. That's not racist. And that's why the government has decided that they want to crush English language rights. Okay. It's a totalitarian, authoritarian government that imposes curfews on all of the citizens, English, French.
Still not racism, Sheldon.
Well, I call it racism because you know what? They're almost taking the English people as either a religion or as a skin color or a creed, because that's their intention. Yeah. That's why I call it linguistic racism. That's why I specified linguistic racism, because they're racist on anybody that is not. Race, Sheldon. But also, just another interesting thing, when we were pure Anglophones that were born and brought up and went to English language schools, we apparently have some rights, believe it or not.
Okay,
Go figure.
I believe we have rights, but I don't believe it's racism. Racism has a specific definition, and that definition is judging somebody based on the color of their skin.
Well, they're judging people by the language they speak.
But that's not racism.
Well,
because many people from many different skin colors can speak English, right?
Yes, but the thing is, if they go by the English, no matter what skin color you are or what religious background you are, they're still being very all right. Do you want to call it prejudice? Let's call it prejudice.
Hey, prejudice makes a little more sense than racism.
So let's call it prejudice. Okay. But they are prejudice against people that are not pure land French Quebecers.
All right, that I could live with because racism is a tough word, and when we misuse words, Sheldon, we dilute the meaning of those words, and I don't like doing that.
Okay, fair enough. So I'll say prejudice. So let me change that to being totally prejudiced against anyone that is non-francophone.
Okay, so we know that the Quebec government now wants to pass new legislation to toughen up Bill 101. Which is the Quebec language laws, which And one of the things they want to do is they want to prohibit English language on any commercial sign. This is one of the things they want to do. I think it's personally, I think it's crazy. I don't see a reason why anybody would want to do this. It seems kind of ludicrous that somebody could have a business and there's legislation saying that you could only have certain languages on your sign. Seems stupid to me. Business is business, and language is language. And what really never made any sense to me in this whole language debate from the first time I got exposed to it.
What's that?
Look, there's a lot of immigrants that come to Canada, and I know a lot of people who are immigrants who come to Canada, and their culture is very important to them. So I know a lot of Italians who grew up in Montreal, and they speak Italian. They speak fluent Italian. I know a lot of Jews who grew up in Montreal, and they speak Yiddish or they speak Hebrew. I know a lot of I know a lot of Greeks who grew up in Montreal, and they speak Greek. Because the language and the culture of those people who came to Montreal was strong, and they believed in their culture, and they believed in passing their culture off to their children, and so they taught their children their language because it was important to them. I don't understand why French has to be legislated. Why if the language is so important to people, as they claim it is, why is it not being taught to the children by the parents like Greek is, like Italian is, like Yiddish is, like Hebrew is, and so many other languages, Punjabi. I mean, there's a whole lot of languages out there that kids speak, Armenian, a whole lot of language out there that kids speak because their parents taught it to them. They were born here in Canada, they were born in Montreal, and they speak these languages. They're bilingual and trilingual and quadrilingual, because they speak the languages of their ancestors because their parents felt it was important to teach them. So why can't the same thing apply to the French language and Quebecers who say, okay, French is very important to us, so we're going to make sure we teach our children French. So why would it be dying? Why would they think that the French language is dying if it's so important? They should be teaching it to their kids, shouldn't they?
That's what I think also, and also have courses to encourage French as rather than discourage English. There's ways of doing both things, because the French language was never threatened. This is a city that's 70 to 80% francophone. Only certain pocketed areas like the West End of Montreal, the West Island, where I live, where you live, are predominantly English speaking. And for them to say that the French language was threatened is utter nonsense. The city was thriving going back right up to the early 1970s. We had World's Fairs here. We had the World's Fair here. We had the city was a boom town. All head offices moved here, and now a lot of head offices are moving out. Now, recently, Amazon just opened up an office. They opened up an office in Montreal, but they were opening up not Amazon. Pardon me. Netflix was opening up an office in Toronto, a big Canadian headquarters in Toronto, not Montreal, because they don't want to open up shop here. If I had all the money in the world, I would never open up a business in Quebec. I would never own property here. And if I had the means and opportunity to do it, I would move out of Montreal. And the thing about Montreal is I love the character of the city. It's a beautiful city. The city has so many wonderful festivals, which makes us forget all about politics and everything what's been going on. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, the festivals are very hard to come, although I'm hearing rumors about the Jazz Festival coming in September. Just for Laughs, a possibility. But the F1, the Grand Prix, the Canadian Grand Prix has already been canceled for this year, although a 2-year contract has been extended.
They'll be back next year.
Yeah. But the thing is, these festivals amount to a lot of money in the city of Montreal. Furthermore, you're going to get tourists that'll come in by car. Do you honestly think that most of the tourists that come in are going to understand strictly French language signs? There have been accidents because the signs were not pictorial or not bilingual. There have been accidents because people just frankly don't understand the language of the signs. There's been fatal accidents and as well as near fatal accidents because people didn't understand the signs. There was no pictogram at all. It was all words. So the thing is, make pictograms if you don't want to. If you don't want to worry about language, make obvious pictograms so everybody can understand it, no matter where they're coming from. I can understand the airports being bilingual. Once you get out of Trudeau International Airport, all the signages are in French. Who knows who Centreville is? You and I know what Centreville is, but the average person that comes in that's not from here.
I'll be honest with you, Sheldon. The signage in Montreal on roads anyway is atrocious.
Yeah, well, not to mention also our roads too are atrocious.
Yeah, but the signage especially is atrocious. You try to get around to Montreal by following signage, forget it. It's not happening.
Yeah, it's terrible. I know my dad, may rest in peace, was telling me always make about 5 or 6 different detours or something like that, or alternate routes rather, because chances are the first and second route is going to be all screwed up with traffic.
Yeah.
And you're talking about an island, and you're talking about so much construction in the city, and there's so many businesses that are going under right now. Do we really need language inspectors going into already businesses that are practically at the brink of bankruptcy and going in and going in because of a stupid anonymous complaint by a bunch of ignorant thugs, uneducated thugs, to go in and have nothing else better to do with their lives but to say, oh, there's a business that, they have a French anyway, but, oh, there's a sign in English. Let's get rid of the signs. Do you remember the restaurant Bonanotte that was on Crescent Street? They were in the news all over because of their sign, Pastagate. And this made the province look so bad.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago, though.
Yeah, but I remember it went viral. All these things went viral. It hit the Tonight Show. It hit all these different shows, all the American media, everywhere around the world. This is an embarrassment. And I always said, you know what, the city of Montreal should separate and be its own city-state like Washington, D.C. is. Otherwise, they're going to wind up simply, Howie, as being another Detroit, Michigan. Now, I know that many people that are listening to us may not know much about Montreal. They don't live in Montreal, but the people who do live in Montreal and the people that live in North America, they know where Detroit is, and they know the situation with the city of Detroit. And I've been in that city a few times, and walking in that city is a very dangerous. You're taking your life in your hands walking in downtown Detroit.
I'm not sure Montreal's going to turn into Detroit.
Well,
that far.
The thing is, if it's going on the state of bankruptcy, and the thing is, a lot of professional positions, especially tied into the public service, like teachers and doctors and everything, they're going to move somewhere else. I mean, look, you have a lot of these universities that go in and recruit anyway, but especially they took advantage of Bill 101, and they came into Montreal and they said, we could give you a better life, better salary, and no Bill 101, no language thing, and you'll be able to have a career and make a lot more money. So people are recruiting from the States, from other parts of Canada, and professionals have been fleeing because they can't stand the politics here. Like, for people that are not Francophone, there's no future here. There's absolutely no future in the city because of what this government has done.
I recently had the opportunity to leave the city and to start over somewhere else, and I chose to stay here. And I chose to stay here not because I think that there's a future for English people in Montreal. I chose to stay here because I love the city. I really love Montreal.
I love the city too.
And I've
when I take a look at
for 20 odd years, I've chosen to stay here because I love the city.
Yeah. I mean, it has a beautiful flair to it. I mean, it has a beautiful skyline. You got Mount Royal in the background, and you got, like in the summer, everybody's in great moods, and we go to the festival. We go to the Old Port of Montreal. We go to Old Montreal. There's so many things to see and do in the city. The city's fairly clean as compared to some of the other U.S. cities. The city has a relatively low crime rate here. There's a lot of attractive things about the city. But, I mean, you take a look at all the governments, like the municipal government, the federal government. Like the thing was Quebec wanted to extend Bill 101 into federally regulated buildings. And federally regulated buildings has their own labor codes and own labor standards. And usually, especially businesses that are, let's say, shipping, any kind of modes of transportation, broadcasting, have the right to communicate in either official language and or both. And there was a time where one radio station I worked at, and I told you this off the air, A person from the OQLF came into the building and was chased out because they said their laws do not apply in a federally regulated building. Now you get both Trudeau and you get O'Toole from the Liberals and Conservatives, respectively. Trudeau is so-called concerned about the French language, and O'Toole saying he welcomes extending Bill 101. So, like, our own politicians on the federal level have abandoned us. They're too scared. All these politicians are too scared to stand up for equal rights, yet they say that under the Canadian Constitution, we have a guaranteed to be able to have services in English and French. Well, that's not the term here. Furthermore, Legault's going to use the notwithstanding clause. How many times has the Quebec government used that notwithstanding clause, which was not designed to do something like that, to purposely undermine the Canadian Constitution by disputing its rights, its very merits where the Canadian Constitution were based at, then taking that situation and saying, no, we don't believe about full bilingualism in Quebec. We want French language only. We want Bill 101. Now, what is the matter with this picture?
So, Sheldon, when are you running for politics?
Running for politics, as you and I have both discussed.
If you want to change things, Sheldon, and you're upset about things, then that's the only way to do it.
Well, would you run for politics?
No.
And I wouldn't run for politics too, for the same reason you won't run for politics.
But that's the only way to change things, Sheldon. If you really feel strongly about changing the world and changing the way things are done, then the only way to do that is to run for politics.
Another thing we could do is we reflect this when we go to the polls on new politicians that are.
Okay, be honest, Sheldon. Is there anybody at all that you could vote for at the next election? Be honest.
I've said this about 3 or 4 months ago. Absolutely not. I really don't know who I'm going to vote for, and it's for the first time I'm at a loss because it doesn't make a difference who I vote for. It's going to be the same thing.
Look, provincially, the Liberals have said that they're in favor of everything that the CAQ is doing.
Yeah.
So the
Liberals won't even get in the next election because they're not strong enough. The PQ won't get into the next election.
Nothing's going to change, Sheldon. That's the thing. They said that they agree with most of the policies of the CAQ. So.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the Liberals were always for Bill 101 because the late Premier Robert Bourassa was the first one that instituted Bill 101.
Right.
Wasn't so? Contrary to what a lot of people thought, it was the PQ, but no, it was the Liberals. And before that, for the exception of the FLQ crisis in October 1970, which you and I have lived through, there really has never been any major language issues. We go into a business, English, French, some of the buildings would be in English only. Nobody would say or do anything. Now the government has put it in people's heads that now we have to have a watchdog, and now we have to have people that do anonymous complaints to go into businesses. I mean, let's face it. If I was in a business and somebody was going to come in and speak French, I would speak French to them. Of course, it's out of respect. It's normal. The government doesn't need to tell me that I have to put everything in French and I have to speak to everybody in French. I would speak to people in French if they spoke to me in French.
Yeah, I agree.
And if they would speak to me in English, I would speak to them in English. I get that. I mean, it's called respect down the line. So that's fine. I get that. I don't need somebody legislating a language bill shoving French down our throats. I don't see any other province that, what's the prevent? There's no other province that has a bill 101 or, the equivalent thereof that are telling businesses that are bilingual, especially in Eastern Ontario or provinces that border Quebec or the United States that border Quebec for the United States to put if they want to put bilingual things in Plattsburgh, they do it. They're not mandated to do it. They do it. If some businesses want to do it, fine. But the New York State government is not telling people you have to do it in English only. The province of Ontario is not saying that you have to do it in English only, or any other province in Canada. I've always said that bilingualism should be guaranteed Charter of Rights and Freedoms throughout Canada, period. We should be fully bilingual. We should have the courses deemed necessary for everybody to learn the next official language without prejudice and without any type of a problem. But this government, just like the curfew, just like anything else, and governments before, doesn't care. doesn't care about anybody else. I mean, when the COVID first came out, all the flyers were in French only. Our recycling bin in the building I live in, which is 80% or 90% predominantly English, was completely full. Nobody wanted to read it. Nobody. So what does that tell you? If they would have put in both official languages, English on one side, French on the other, perfect. I would have read it, whatever. But then they tell you have to go on a website. What happens to people, elderly people, that are not tech savvy and don't have a computer? What are they supposed to do?
It's a good question.
So this is, this is why I'm so angry that this government has all the money to spend because of 10 or 15%. Again, it's the actions of a few that the rest of us, English and French and allophones alike, are all getting punished.
1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. That's 1-877-669-1292. I'm Howie Silbiger. He's Sheldon Eric Freed. This is the Howie Silbiger Show. Right here on the True Talk Radio Network. We'd love to talk to you. Love for you to get involved in the conversation. Feel free to call in. 1-877-669-1292. And you know what? I'll even pay for the call. So give me a call. 1-877-669-1292. Sheldon, isn't that kind of me that I'll pay for the call?
You are a kind soul. That's why you're such a great colleague of mine,
Howie. So altruistic. It's unbelievable.
And we're 15 years old.
And we turned 15 today, so wish us a happy birthday. Give us a call. Wish us a happy birthday. We get to go to bed at 9:30.
No. Not go to bed at 9:30.
We have to be home at 9:30. Sorry. We have to be home at 9:30.
So we're 15 outside, but inside we're our respective ages.
Oh, that's too bad. Because I was.
You can't find the card inside your apartment.
Because I was 13-year-old. I was 13 years old last week when I had to be home for 8:00. So I mean, 9:30 is such a treat. I'm telling you, I love the government.
Don't you just love the government?
I wanted to invite Francois Legault onto the show just to thank him. Not to ask him any questions, just to say thank you, Pierre Legault. Pierre Legault, not Pierre, Pierre. Father Legault, thank you so much for granting us an extension for our bedtime curfew. That now we could stay up past 8:00 until 9:30.
It just hits you right here, eh, buddy?
I know.
It hits you right here. It just warms my heart, eh?
It warms the cockles of my heart. Really, the cockles of my heart. They're so warm and fuzzy. It's just warm, and
it's amazing.
And maybe next week, Monsieur Legault will feel that we're warrant, that we're worthy of staying up till 10:00, Sheldon.
We feel the warmth. We feel the warmth, pal. We feel the warmth.
I'm telling you. And the truth is, though, Sheldon, putting all kidding aside, the truth is that COVID,
on True Talk Radio,
that COVID knows, Sheldon.
That's right.
That COVID knows when it's 8:00 and COVID knows when it's 9:30.
They have a birthday cake that goes with them.
Really?
It follows them everywhere.
Wow. I was outside just last week, Sheldon, and it was 7:50 in the evening, Sheldon.
You were.
And I was standing on the porch of my house, and I'm looking out at the street, and there is COVID standing on the street. He's standing on the sidewalk. He's not bothering anyone. He's not bothering anyone. He's just standing there, Sheldon. Darn. And he's watching his watch, because the second that clock turned 8, Sheldon, he was going to pounce on someone. Like a mugger in Manhattan, he was going to get his target, Sheldon. And COVID stood there. COVID stood there, and he waited, Sheldon, and he waited. And I watched him wait. And I said, COVID, go away. You're not welcome on my street. And you know what COVID told me, Sheldon?
You watched and waited.
You know what COVID told me, Sheldon? COVID told me that it's at 8:00. The streets belong to him, Sheldon.
Move over, Jerry Falwell.
The streets belong to him. COVID owns the streets after 8:00, and now COVID is upset. So be careful.
You know that they need
be careful after 9:30, Sheldon. Be careful, because COVID is upset. It's upset that you stole an hour and a half from him. You took the streets away from him for an hour and a half.
It's terrible. I know. It's just awful.
He is devastated.
Don't go in my apartment.
He is really, really upset, Sheldon. So you got to be careful. You just got to be careful. After 9:30, close your windows. Close your windows.
I have to call Loomis. I need security guards here. I need armor patrol.
You got to close your windows. close your air conditioner because you don't want the air coming in from outside. Lock
warm
your
enough.
doors
Yep.
very tight because
Definitely
after
lock.
9 o'clock, COVID knows and
lock.
he's coming to get you, Sheldon. He's coming to get you.
They're coming to take me away. Okay.
And that's the truth, man. That is the truth. We know it's the truth.
People here on True Talk Radio, you see the first two evangelical Jews talking about COVID-19. Oh my God.
That second,
I love being on
that
with you. You
clock
know that?
hits 9:30, Sheldon. COVID knows.
Oh my
And he's
God.
coming for you, buddy. He's coming for you.
I know. I'm just looking around right now.
So how do you save yourself from COVID at 9:30, Sheldon? What do you do to get away from COVID at 9:30?
Hide under the bed.
Hide under bed. Lock yourself in a closet.
Yes.
You know, get into the shower, run the hot water, and run it hot, Sheldon, and just
you better
stand there
believe it.
and run the hot water.
Just to make sure that everything, all the viruses are away, whatever the case is.
Well, you got to sterilize yourself the same way you sterilize medical equipment, Sheldon,
Don't
because
forget to put the hair
COVID
dryer
knows.
up the nose, people. Don't forget to put the hair dryer up the nose to
COVID
destroy
knows.
those things. All these conspiracy theorists. Don't
Yeah.
forget to do that because it'll destroy.
That's right.
It'll destroy.
Yeah, it'll
the
destroy
virus.
your nose hair. That's what it'll destroy.
It'll destroy everything else too.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I was really concerned about too on a totally different issue? The AstraZeneca vaccine that's been coming in. It's been about 1 point. I think it's over 1 million doses of AstraZeneca that's come into the country.
Yeah.
And there's already been 3 confirmed. There was 1 fatality in locally, and there were 2 other people that got sick from them, but they were treated.
So, Sheldon, why does this concern you?
I mean,
Why does it concern you?
Well, I'm more concerned. Well, I got the Pfizer vaccine.
No,
on the first one.
but the question is, why would that concern you? They've given out almost 10 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Well, you know what concerns?
Wait. Let me finish. They've given out almost 10 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine, and there's maybe a dozen people around the world who have been affected by it. So, in 10 million doses, maybe a dozen people. Why would that concern you?
I'm concerned.
You have a higher risk of getting hit by a train and not being anywhere near a train track than you do of having a complication from the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Yeah, it's not the vaccine that I'm concerned about, Howie. It's the media, how they spun it.
Oh, of course.
That concerns me. It's not the vaccine because, like you said, it's first of all, the benefits outweigh the risks.
Always.
And the thing is, like you said, there's very few people that got infected. I mean, obviously, I'm very sorry for the person who's passed away due to blood clot issues or whatever the case
is. You're talking about maybe a dozen people, maybe a dozen to 20 people around the world after giving out 10 million vaccines. We're talking about 12 people, even 20, people, even 50, even 100 people.
Yeah, I mean, I
care. I care about them. I certainly don't want anybody getting hurt or anybody dying from.
From exactly.
The vaccine.
Well, that's the way.
But
exactly.
Statistically, it's irrelevant.
But I'm just concerned of how the media once again blows up for those 10 or 12 people or the 100 people.
They do that for a lot of things, Joe.
And they blow it up to such proportions. I mean, I've seen it on all local media here, and I'm wondering.
Sheldon, that's what sells. That's what sells.
Well, I know that's the issue. And
but that's always the issue, Sheldon.
Listen, they're not helping the situation either.
Remember, I don't know if you remember this in the '80s, in the early '80s, there was a case of a kid in Iowa. He was a newspaper delivery boy, and he went out at 5 o'clock in the morning to deliver his newspapers. He picked up the papers, he put them onto his wagon. And he walked to the corner to deliver his papers, and he disappeared. He vanished. And he was gone, and they never found him. He just vanished. His papers were on the corner. His wagon was on the corner. Even his dog was there because he took his dog out with him to go deliver newspapers. The dog was there, the papers were there, and the wagon was there. The kid was gone. And that prompted newspapers across North America to stop hiring young boys to go and deliver their newspaper, young kids to go and deliver their newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was that fair to teenagers? This was a lot of teenagers' first jobs was to go and deliver newspapers and have newspaper route. Was that fair to teenagers? Probably not. And was the freakout normal? Was it a justifiable freakout? No, it was one kid in Iowa. And if you think about all the newspapers in North America in the early '80s, you probably had 1 million newspapers across North America and millions of kids delivering these newspapers. So one kid in 1 million got taken, but the media made such a big deal out of it, and scared so many people that the newspaper said it's not worth the risk, right? But what was the risk really? What was really the risk? It was always the same risk. You send a bunch of kids out into the street to go and deliver something, you always have the risk of somebody grabbing one. Okay, that's always the risk. But it's a
and they never
calculated
found out
risk.
anything about the kid at all or anything, eh?
Well, the story got a little weird. The mother was strange. She was pressuring the police to go and find her son, and and then one day she went to the police officer investigating the case like 20 years later, and she told the cop that her son had come to visit her in the middle of the night, and he told her that he was part of a cult of some sort or part of the mafia.
Oh boy!
And they were going to kill him, and she was sure it was her son, and anyway, it was just such a weird story, and I mean, but
oh my God,
that wasn't the point. That wasn't the point I was making here.
And probably went to the media too to put pressure on the media
No, of course.
to.
But the point I'm making is that the media made such a big deal out of one kid disappearing in Iowa, in the middle of nowhere, Iowa, that that newspapers across North America, every newspaper across North America, stopped hiring kids to deliver their newspapers.
Wow.
So you destroyed an entire industry because of one kid, right? So this is the exact same thing with AstraZeneca. I was talking to somebody who got their vaccine today. And they were telling me that everybody was telling him, don't get the AstraZeneca. If they give you AstraZeneca, walk out. Don't take the AstraZeneca vaccine. And the person asked, why not? What is wrong with the AstraZeneca vaccine? People get blood clots. How many people have gotten blood clots from the AstraZeneca vaccine? 5. 5 people. 10 million vaccines. 5 people had blood clots. Is that even a statistical? It doesn't even make a blip in statistics? No.
No.
If I made a pie chart and put the statistics in a pie chart, would you even see the sliver? You wouldn't even see you wouldn't even see the color.
It's a crumb.
It's a crumb. It's nothing.
No.
I mean, it's something for the family of the people who died, but it's really nothing statistically, and nothing that anybody should be afraid of. And who knows?
Not mention either.
No, they never mention that. So what if the person was not a hemophiliac? What if they had blood clotting problems beforehand? What if they had predisposition for blood clotting? Maybe what if they had other underlying conditions that caused blood clotting, or some kind of disease that caused blood clotting? We don't know, and we don't know because they intentionally don't tell us these things. You know, I love when they give out the numbers for COVID. You know, positivity numbers are 10,000 people tested positive in the last week. Okay, how many people tested positive? They never tell you these numbers. How many people tested positive and were fine after testing positive? That there were no issues. They just had a slight cold or a slight feeling of the flu. It lasted 2-3 days, then they were good. How many people did that? The vast majority of them, but they won't tell you that, right? Because the numbers that they quote, the government and the media, the numbers that they quote are designed to scare the population so that the population will be obedient with the orders that they bark out at us. Right? So we never hear about people recovering from COVID. We never hear statistics of people who get COVID, who get a slight cold, they tested positive, get a slight cold, and they move on. We never hear those numbers. We never hear the numbers of any of this stuff. All we hear is 3,000 people tested positive, and that means nothing. How many of them got sick? How many of them died? How many of them got sick and got better? How many of them went to we don't hear those numbers, And that's,
you know what?
That's the problem. That's been the problem since the beginning of COVID.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They really scared us big time when it first happened. Absolutely. But also, I remember
they're continuing to do that, Sheldon. Nothing's changed.
Yeah. But it wasn't like they just started it yesterday. They started it since day one.
Yeah. And
they started it since day one. They didn't start last
changed.
week, 2 weeks, 2 months ago. They started it when it first happened.
Right.
So yeah, no, for sure. And another thing too, the snowbirds are coming back, and there was a lot of outcry. Again, this is what I saw in the media. People coming back, and they're able to walk across the border or get into these services whereby they help transport services, And when people went to the States, what they would do is they would fly from Montreal St. Hubert Airport to Plattsburgh, New York.
Sheldon, nearly every single person who is in Florida has been vaccinated.
Yeah.
Florida has nearly 100% vaccination statistic. And,
well, I spoke to somebody, actually, one of the administrators in the building, and she said that she already got the first vaccine way ahead, and then the second time she was on the way back to Montreal, she could have gotten vaccinated within about 3 months ago or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And she's still waiting to get the second vaccine here.
Most of the snowbirds who were in Florida for the entire summer were fully vaccinated. If they're fully vaccinated, they're not a danger of spreading COVID or of getting COVID. So the whole idea of vaccinated people having to wear masks, vaccinated people having to socially distance, vaccinated people having to not live their lives the way they should be living their lives is all just a scare tactic from the government. The vaccine has to have some value. If it doesn't have value, there's no point in taking the vaccine. So you can't have it both ways. So either the vaccine works and people who get vaccinated get to go back to normal life, or the vaccine doesn't work and we stop giving it to people because it's pointless. So it's one or the other. You can't have both. So you can't tell me on one hand, vaccinated people could still carry the variants, vaccinated people could still do this, could still do that, could still spread it, they might not get it, they could still spread it, and then tell me that, when the majority of people in the province get vaccinated, we're going to start opening everything up. Well, which one is it? It can't be both. You can't be good and bad, right? Yeah. So it's good or it's bad. It can't be good and bad. There's no such thing as good and bad, right? Yeah. It's two separate words, and
Absolutely.
so this is part of the scare tactics. It really is. When the government official, when Joe Biden got up last week and he gave his State of the Union address or whatever they called it, where he spoke to joint sessions of Congress. Everybody, they only filled a quarter of the room, and everybody was wearing double masks, and he was wearing a mask. Everybody was wearing a mask, but everybody in the room, everybody in Congress, everybody in the Senate has been vaccinated twice. They've gotten both vaccines. So why wasn't the room full? Why wasn't everybody out of a mask? And why weren't they running the joint session as if they would have run any joint session in the past? Mm-hmm. That would have been a good indication to the people, to the population, that this thing is just about over. If you get the vaccine, and we can go back to normal life. Look, we got the vaccine, we're back in normal life, but what the message you're sending, and the message they sent that night, is that, hey, we took the vaccine, we got double vaccinated, and life is still not normal. So that leads people to question, well, if they're not going back to normal, and they've been vaccinated twice, they've been vaccinated for months already, because the politicians got it first. So they've been vaccinated for months already. If they're not going back to normal life, then why the hell should I go get the vaccine? And trust me, I've spoken to Americans who make that argument right now all the time. They're making that argument. If the government's not going back to normal life and they're not taking their masks off and they've been vaccinated for months, then why the heck should I go and get some foreign agent put into my body and who knows what it is? If it doesn't work, why am I taking it?
Yeah, people are making other people chasing our tails. It's a great question. It gets to the point that it's putting a lot of panic, and people don't know what to believe, and people don't know what's true and what's not true. And you know what? You put it very, very well. Either the vaccine works and we get on with our lives, or vaccines don't work, and then we stop giving the vaccines. Exactly. And it's the same thing, like certain countries are now going to have so-called vaccination certificates. So if people want to travel and have the vaccine, they'll be able to travel.
Right. But you got to send a clear message. The governments have to send clear messages.
Yeah. And that's the problem. The governments are not sending clear messages.
And the messages are muddled. And when the messages are muddled, people get scared. They get scared of the message, and they don't go and they don't do what they have to be doing.
And who do people turn to try to get all the information?
The media.
Thank you.
And the media is playing with an agenda because the media loves playing God. So they love having the power.
Yeah, all about this. All about ratings. All about money.
It really is all about money.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Unbelievable, eh?
And so who ends up suffering at the end? The population ends up suffering at the end, Sheldon. We all end up suffering at the end.
I mean, it's no wonder people are depressed. I mean, I speak to people all the time, and people are saying, love to go out, whatever the case is, and go out for a nice walk in the evening and look at the stars, look at the moon, go downtown, have a meal out, go out for a drink, go out and get together with friends, go to their house, watch a sporting event or something like that, go to concerts, whatever. And it's like nothing. It's I mean, I look out my window literally at 8:01. It's a frick. I mean, I live in a very quiet neighborhood, but I could even just look out or just go around the corner, just be like a 10 to 8, and one of the main streets that I live near, which I'm facing the back and I don't hear the traffic. It's like a ghost town. You could walk in the middle of the street and there won't be a single car there at 8:01.
Yeah, but starting tomorrow, Sheldon, it could be at
Yeah.
9:31.
9:30. Yeah, yeah. 9:30. All you party animals out there. Absolutely. Yeah.
Starting tomorrow, Sheldon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because starting on Sunday would have made too much sense. Starting
Yeah.
on
But
Monday makes much more sense.
yeah, go figure. Would have been nice to start, let's say, to start on a weekend because people usually like to go out on a weekend and more people are home on the weekend. So wouldn't it be smart? But no, they have to start on Monday.
And
Anyway.
so so this is the issue I have with this whole thing, is that the message has been so muddled and people have been so confused by the message that you have people who are not getting vaccinated because they don't trust it, because the government doesn't trust it. So we have to start showing. I mean, as government officials have to start showing that they have some trust in the system. If they don't have trust in the system, how could we have trust in the system? We take our lead from them, and this is the big issue, Sheldon. This is the big issue, and the second issue we're going to come up with. I mean, after the government decrees that we go back to normal and things could reopen, it should be in the next few weeks, by the way, that things should start reopening. Uh, Theoretically speaking, it should be in the next few weeks. Once things start opening, how are we going to convince the people who have convinced themselves that everything outside is dangerous to start going outside again? How are we going to change the attitude of the people who've been scared out of their minds and are sitting with gloves and masks on inside their homes? How are we going to get them to take those gloves and masks off and go outside? How's that? How are we going to do that? And there are more people like that than there are people like us, Sheldon.
That's a very scary question. That's a very accurate question, but I'm very scared of how many people are in their homes wearing masks and gloves, which you can, and as long as you're within your family bubble, or if you're living by yourself, you don't have to worry. I mean, I can go out on my balcony and not have to worry about it, take a mask. But if I go outside my apartment and I go to the washer, the dryer, the recycling, the garbage, I will put my mask on. That I will, because chances are I might bump into somebody. Who knows if they got the vaccine or not? I don't know, but I will wear a mask when I go outside my apartment. When I'm in the apartment, no, I'm not wearing. As you can see, I'm not wearing a mask now. I don't wear a mask inside my apartment. I can go out on my balcony because there's nobody that's right on top of me, so I have a lot of space between myself and the next door neighbor, and we have a plexiglass too at the same time. So it's fine, but it's like but as soon as I go outside the building, I do walk with a mask because I never know if I'm going to bump into anybody. But I would love so much to be able to take the mask off and not having to worry or anything like that about anything.
You do know that your chances of getting COVID outside
Is much slimmer than getting it in an enclosed area.
is
Yeah,
almost minuscule. There is almost zero chance of getting COVID outside.
I know.
You know that.
I know.
So wearing a mask outside is kind of pointless.
Well, I'm also because I'm also immune compromised too, so I'm watching myself too at the same
Okay,
time.
so you're trying to be a little more careful, but
Yeah,
the
that's what I
reality
am.
is
Yeah,
that wearing a mask outside is pointless.
but
It
it's
doesn't
but it's
change anything. It doesn't help anything.
but who knows? I'm not even going on the act of the government about wearing. I mean, like I took public transit when I had to go for a blood test at a hospital near me a few days ago, and I mean I see the bus driver. The bus driver's enclosed in a plastic thing. And I see like the bus is like half empty, and I could see that people are looking around them. And this is really interesting to note. And I very rarely use public transportation these days. But I noticed on the bus, I see as soon as somebody gets on, how people look around. They're praying that this person who they don't know, a total stranger, a passenger just getting on the bus, they're scared of them sitting near them. They're scared. They don't know anything about this person. It's not that the person's coughing or exhibiting any kind of signs that you would think, but they're scared, Howie. They're scared. The
So how
people,
do how do you
and I
change that
saw
attitude?
this.
How do you change that attitude? How do you
That's the
change
thing.
people's attitude when
So
they're
the
scared?
question, what you're saying, I saw this in public transit, and this is where all people are required to wear a mask on public transit,
Right.
and people are scared because they're worried that somebody that also is wearing a mask that's going to sit beside them.
It's ridiculous, but it's real.
Yeah, and I saw that. I saw that the other day when I went for my blood test. I saw this, and I saw this, and this I would never see this before, and I'm saying, my God, we're gonna. It's almost like we're brainwashed in a cult. And then you came and asked that question. And then I was just thinking about that now. The same thing as when I took a Metro when I had to do a TV appearance on a cable show, and I was going in a park and I took the Metro, and I was the only maybe four people in the entire subway or Metro car. So there was nobody sitting near me. And every time the door would go open, I would see people, even if they're not coming in and people are walking by, I would see the people in the various cars looking around in fear because they're scared that they're going to go into their Metro car. And the Metro cars are big. I
Yeah.
mean, and it wasn't like, so what does that tell you? And then I'm looking at this, and this is just public transportation. And this is another reason why people were scared to take public transportation, because people are too nervous. People are scared out of their mind. Masks or no masks, people are scared.
And it
And
doesn't
you
make
just
any
brought up an interesting
doesn't
question.
make any sense. It's not
No,
logical.
no,
So
exactly.
how do we reverse that? What do you do to reverse that?
Well, it's like a cult. It takes deprogramming and for people to get back to normal. Because let's say when everything gets back to normal, and most people are not wearing masks, it's going to take a long adjustment for many people that have been used to wearing masks over the past year or 2 years, afraid of their own shadow, to actually say to themselves, "Hey, I can go to a restaurant, I can go to a bar, I can go to a movie, I can go to a concert, I could sit beside somebody, and I could actually not having to worry about looking over my shoulder." How long? That's going to take a long time to get, in a way, deprogrammed. It's almost like you're in a cult and now you're trying to be deprogrammed, and you're getting flat. So, like, the question you raised is really, 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 right bang on.
How do we solve? I still don't know how we solving this problem, Sheldon.
I guess it's education and trust. And who do you go to? I don't know. I guess your doctor, your own medical professional could probably be able to, that's non-government, will probably be able to, like, speak to your physician, speak to your own family doctor. Do your research. Don't go on media sites. Try to do research on independent sites, medical sites, as opposed to government websites that'll try to scare the hell out of you, or media companies. That's how you probably could do it.
Pretty scary, if you ask me.
It's very scary. Yeah, it's very scary. We're definitely, without a question, unprecedented times, without
I
question.
know we've spoken about the suicide rate going up over during COVID times, and we've spoken about the poor young people who get stuck into this and have no idea what to do and how to get out of this horrible situation of depression and anxiety. So we've talked about all this, and we still haven't been able to figure out how we could solve the issue. Even once everything's finished, how do we solve this issue? It's just mind-boggling. So we have to deprogram people. So do we use the media the way we use them to program people to deprogram people? Will the media be willing to do it? Can we coerce the media to do it? I mean, this is so many different questions that nobody's asking, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, you don't hear any politicians asking these questions. You don't hear anybody asking. You don't hear any media asking these questions because they're not good questions for media to ask. Because if media asked these questions, then their gravy train would be over, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But these questions have to be asked because you have millions of people who are scared out of their minds. I see them every single day, Sheldon. I'm telling you, I see them every single day. There's a couple that lives near me, and they never leave their home. They haven't left their home in a year. Okay,
Oh boy.
everything's delivered in. When they sit on the porch of their home, they wear gloves, they wear hats, and they wear goggles over their eyes,
Good
and
heavens.
and they wear masks. Okay,
Oh
this is
my
how they
God.
sit on their porch. Just the two of them. They live together. They sit on the porch wearing goggles, gloves, hats, and masks. Okay. So somebody will ask, well, what does the goggles, gloves, hats, and masks have to do with COVID? Well, these were all recommendations over the last year of what to do to not get COVID, right? So at one point we were told put on hats because it could seep in through your head, apparently. Another point we were told wear goggles because it could come in through your eyes. You remember all this, Sheldon?
Yeah.
This was all there, right? And another point we were told that you have to wear masks and double masks, and then so these people wear it all, right? They never took anything off. At the beginning of COVID, they told us that it could be passed on through touching things, so they wear gloves.
What's next? A hazmat suit for them?
But they sit there, Sheldon. This is the way these people are living.
Jeez.
Okay, and they're living together, and they don't go out, and they're still wearing this stuff. So one has to wonder how many more people are like these people, and I'm sure
there's
there's
a lot.
lots of them.
And how many people have taken their own lives and gone totally insane?
Yeah. Well, I would argue that anybody who dresses the way these people are dressing, living alone, living together alone, and sitting on their porch together, has gone insane. I would argue anybody who wears a mask outside, double mask outside while exercising, is insane.
No, they tell you not to do that for sure.
I will argue that anybody who forces a young child, to put a mask on is insane. I'll make that argument because there's no science behind any of that stuff. It's all politics. There's no science. So if there's science behind something, I have no problem doing it, right? But when there's no science and it's just politics, then I have issues with it. And I have issues with it because it hurts people, not because I think that people shouldn't be following what the government recommends. Sure, follow what the government recommends. Doesn't bother me. But when there's no science behind it, it hurts people. When people go out and wear double mask while running a 100-meter dash, they're basically choking themselves to death. I mean, they're depriving their body of oxygen. This medically cannot be good. There is zero chance of them catching COVID running a 100-meter dash outside, and yet they're being forced to choke themselves, right? So this is not a healthy situation, and somehow we have to figure out a way to dial it back so that when we finally get to the end of the road, which should be in the next few weeks, God willing, after majority of the population gets vaccinated, there's no reason to keep these restrictions in place. The numbers are plummeting. Even the fake numbers they're giving us are plummeting. So there's no reason to keep these numbers to keep these regulations in place. So hopefully over the next couple of weeks we'll start seeing them drop off.
Good.
But how do you convince a population that you forced to wear masks and said, if you don't wear a mask, you're killing grandma? How do you convince them to take the masks off? How do you convince them to, let them keep washing their hands? I think washing your hands is a good thing.
Well, we do it anyway. I mean,
but I think the majority of people, I mean, they had to put up signs telling people how to wash your hands. I think there would be a vast majority of people who weren't washing their hands who are now washing their hands. So that was one of the good things about COVID was that that it taught people how to hygiene. It taught people how to clean themselves. There was no flu season this year because people were washing their hands and they were staying away from each other. That was a positive reaction of this COVID overreaction. But I think it's time. Look, I will have no objections at all, by the way. If when I walk into a supermarket, they tell me I have to wash my hands. No objections. I'll go wash my hands. I will never object to that. Even 10 years from now, after COVID's long gone and forgotten, I will still wash my hands if they ask me to wash my hands going into a supermarket. Because it's sanitary, and we're going to touch food, and we're going to touch food that other people might be touching. So, yeah, okay, that makes sense to me, right? So some of these protocols make sense to me, but wearing a mask for the rest of my life does not make sense to me. There's no science behind the mask to start with, and then wearing the mask after being vaccinated is just totally counter science, and that doesn't work for me. So, you got to balance it, right? And, you got to bring people back to normalcy. People have to be able to realize that that a lot of the regulations we have to follow, a lot of the hype wasn't scientific. It had nothing to do with science. It was more politics than it was science. And people have to realize that that at one point or another we have to get rid of the politics. We have to say, okay, we understand it was political. Now it's time to move on with life. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's all.
And the thing is, and by doing this, also the economy will bounce back. If most people get vaccinated, the schools could reopen, and we can start having the camps could open up for the summer, and our lives can be back to normal. And that's what we all want. And we hope that now that the summer is coming and the weather's getting better at this part of the world, that we could actually go out and have fun again, and not having to worry about looking at our watches because of a stupid damn curfew. Regardless of what time the curfew is, 8, 9:30, whatever.
Right. Okay, so I got a message off YouTube. It says, well, there is something to say about the masks. It's not to protect you from anyone. It's to protect others from you. Everyone spits when they talk, when they cough, when they huff, etc. You're 100% right. There is something to say about masks. But there's no science that says that masks stop COVID from spreading. There's no science that says that mask stops you from getting COVID by wearing a mask. There is absolutely zero scientific studies that concluded that. But aside from that, once everyone's vaccinated and the risk of spreading or receiving COVID is gone, doesn't exist anymore because everybody's vaccinated. So the chances of you spreading COVID or getting COVID is down to minuscule levels. It's less than 1/4%. I don't think masks are necessary. Now, aside from that, there have been studies, especially an Irish study, a recent Irish study, which looked at wearing masks outside and the chances of spreading COVID outside. And that Irish study conclusively concluded. You see how I use that word, Sheldon? Conclusively concluded?
I see how you use that word, Howie.
See? That Irish study conclusively concluded. You're not supposed to use the same word twice in a sentence, Sheldon, but I did it.
Okay.
Now, that Irish study conclusively concluded, you say I did it 3 times in a row, that
3 times a charm, as they say, yes.
That your chances of passing COVID outside is minuscule, is less than minuscule. I think it was 1 in 100,000. So 1 in 100,000 really is not something I'm going to worry about, and not something anybody should really worry about.
Plus, there's also going to be booster shots, similar to what the flu shots are going to be for the variants. So we're going to have that for at least the next few years. And the government has secured a contract with the leading vaccine companies to provide booster shots for us because of the different variants of the COVID-19. Just like there would be the flu shot.
Yep.
So,
1-877-669-1292. You can give me a call if you want. We could talk this out. 1-877-669-1292.
And Howie will pay for the call, by the way.
1292. I'll pay for the call, I promise you. It's not going to cost you a penny. It'll cost me a penny, but it won't cost you a penny.
Yes.
Rather, it costs me a penny than you a penny, right?
As long as you conclusively conclude.
That's right. You have to conclusively conclude that you could call in.
Exactly. Yes.
So I could conclusively conclude that you could call in.
Okay. That's 2.
Yeah. Well, we could do this all night, Sheldon.
and you've done it.
I have, and I have no problems doing it. I could do it all night long. That's the problem with being on the radio for so long, Sheldon.
Yes.
That you could
Since
do
1999, as a matter of fact, yes.
Yeah, that you could do stuff and just continue doing it, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't bother you, you know?
And make us laugh in the process with you.
Well, we try. I've actually been on the radio longer than 1999. 1994 was my first radio show.
Oh, but True Talk was founded in 1999?
2004.
Oh, 2004. Okay.
I started working at CJD in 1999.
Ah, okay. You and Prince. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So another message from YouTube. What would you say is the reason Quebec has 1,000 new cases today, all things said and considered? So why does Quebec have 1,000 new cases? Once again, we don't know the full story, right? So my question is, and this question has never been answered, never gets answered. How many of those 1,000 cases were asymptomatic people who tested positive? How many of those 1,000 cases were people who didn't get seriously ill? I'd say the majority of them, right? And why does Quebec have 1,000 cases? You're always going to have cases. It's never going to go away. You're never going to be down to zero. You're not down to zero. You have the flu shot. You're not down to 0 flu cases. There's always going to be cases. And we're going to have to accept the fact that there's always going to be cases, and we're never going to have a zero-sum balance. It's never going to go down to nothing. And so we have to understand that if we have cases and they're not deadly cases and they're not putting people into the ICU, and you're not going to tell me there's 1,000 new ICU cases today, because that's not true. So 1,000 new positive cases, 1,000 new positive results doesn't equal extremely sick people, doesn't equal people in the ICU, doesn't equal people even going to the hospital. It equals 1,000 people who tested positive for COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you told me there were 1,000 cases of people who were rushed to the hospital with severe respiratory illness and had to be put on ventilators, that would be a totally different ballgame.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the case. And we have to understand that people will be contracting COVID for forever now. It's never going to go away. There'll always be some cases. And
but as the years go by, too, there'll be more and more research done and more treatments and more treatments available.
The crazy laser focus on new cases is insane, Sheldon. The crazy laser focus on new cases. 1,000 cases today, 1,500 cases tomorrow, 900 cases yesterday. It's insane. This laser focus on new cases is insane. Because there'll always be cases.
In a lot worse shape than we are anyway. Yeah.
And even then, how many cases are in Ontario?
Over 3,000 today. Over 3,000.
How many people live in the province of Ontario?
It's what is it? 6 million or 7 million people? 8 million people.
Okay, so could you work?
I think we're 5 or 6 here in Quebec, and I think Ontario is about 8 million.
Could you work out the percentage? Work out the percentage of people who tested positive.
Well, yeah,
for COVID?
it's a low percentage. Obviously, of an 8 million population, you get 3,000 people. Yeah, of course.
Okay, so 3,000 people out of 8 million. What would your odds be as an individual living in Ontario? And 8,000 isn't 3,000. I'm sorry, isn't only Toronto. 3,000 is across the entire province.
Yeah.
Right, so you could have 12 cases in Toronto, 10 cases in Toronto, a city of what, 3 million people?
About 4 or 5 million people. Yeah,
5 million people. So you could have 12 cases out of 5 million people. What's the percentage of that?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Also, it depends on and what's the percentage of very serious cases of COVID.
Right.
Versus, like you said, like a cold or...
Out of the 12 people that have it in Toronto, let's say, hypothetically speaking, out of the 3,000 people in Ontario, let's say 12 of them are in Toronto, or 20 of them, whatever. Out of those people, how many of them are severely ill?
Yeah, that's the thing you have to look at, too.
So you take that
percentage. And they don't tell you that either.
Of course they don't, because then the scare tactic doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of let's scare the population so they follow our stupid COVID regulations, which make no logical sense whatsoever, or don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone's telling me, wow, Ontario has 3,000 cases a day. And I say, yeah, okay, 8 million people, 3,000 cases. It's a lot. But if they're spread out over the entire province, it really doesn't amount to much. I mean, I think you probably have more cases of the flu during flu season than you do of COVID today. On an average day during the flu season. If you spread it out across the entire province. Nobody's counting that. How many people were diagnosed with cancer today? How many people were diagnosed with other diseases?
Mm-hmm.
What makes this one so special? That requires us to lock down an entire province and close the borders. It's contagious, so is the flu. So is the common cold. It kills people, so does the flu. So does the common cold. So does hepatitis, so does herpes. All contagious.
Mm-hmm.
So give me a break. I don't fall for the scare tactics because I have a brain and I know how to think. And I know how to think because, and I know how to think and I know how to look at numbers and say, 1 second, it doesn't add up. When you have 8 million people and 3,000 cases, it's a huge, it's a substantial number of people. But when you spread it out over a province, the largest province in Canada, you're not talking very many people in very many places. It's not very concentrated.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not very concentrated, what are the chances of me catching it if I lived in Toronto? 0. Let's be honest. And if we see that the cases are all congregated in old age homes, they're all congregated in schools, they're all congregated somewhere else, then why don't we just laser focus on those specific areas of population where the disease is concentrated, and deal with that? Why punish everybody else? So these are the questions I have. Nobody's been able to answer them, Sheldon.
No, and they're not for a long time anyway.
So
until when this whole thing is forgotten with. But yeah, I could see the scare tactics that they've been using, and they've been using ever since from day one. And it's going to take. It's because of these scare tactics that you have your friends that live near you that are out on their balcony dressed like almost in hazmat suits. Right. People are petrified. Increase in suicides and mental issues. And we have to change the focus of things getting back to normal, and soon.
I agree. So the way to do that is to stop focusing on stop laser focusing on the amount of cases per day. They're meaningless. The numbers are meaningless. So you have to stop focusing on the numbers. If you want to focus on numbers, focus on how many people were hospitalized today. If the number is 0, then we're doing well. Focus on how many people are in the ICU today. If the number is going down in the ICU, then we're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Because people will get COVID and they'll test positive, and if nothing happens and they don't end up in the hospital, they end up in the ICU, then who cares?
Well, even like you said, the data, whether or not no matter how it's spun, it's going down, and Quebec has inoculated about 70%. What is it, 70-80% now of the population for the first dose?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, Quebec is very far ahead of most other provinces now in terms of people getting the first dose, and now when people get the second dose, and like all being well, like you said, hopefully in the summer, right in the heart of the summer, people will start being able to go out again and start being more like themselves and to breathe in the fresh air and really, really enjoy being outside and having the air fill their lungs, and people finally saying, thank God this is over once and for all. I saw
something really funny, and well, it wasn't funny, it was kind of scary, in the French papers this weekend. One of the French papers had a I guess it must be a doctor from one of these study groups that are studying COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And she came on and she said quite simply, she said, listen, I know originally we said we need 70% of the population to be vaccinated in order for us to go back to some sort of normal life, right? But now I think it has to be more like 80 or 90%. Since we're reaching the 70% mark, now I think maybe we should look at 80 or 90%.
Mm-hmm.
1 second. Why are we moving the goalpost? Why are we changing the story? If 70% was considered herd immunity, whatever that means, if 70 or 80% was considered herd immunity, why are we pushing the goalpost even farther? Why at 70% are we not going back to normal life?
Because they want to scare more people into getting the vaccinations to make sure that that's exactly what they're doing.
Of course. So everybody has to be punished.
So until 100% or 99.99% are vaccinated, if it's going to be 80%, they're going to say, let's do it 90%. Let's do it 95%.
But then again, Sheldon, we are a year and a half into a 3-week lockdown, right? So
exactly. I mean, I only hope that we'll be able to turn 18 on our 18th birthday.
Well, it's coming up, Sheldon. Eventually, we'll be 18.
Yep.
And we'll be able to stay up till 11 o'clock, Sheldon. 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I got a birthday coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I know. And then
so
maybe
let's see what's going to happen then.
Maybe then you'll be able to stay up till 11 o'clock, Sheldon.
My goodness! Oh my God!
Papa,
oh my God!
Papa Legault will give you a birthday present.
Yeah, fleur de lis cake.
Fleur de lis cake.
That's exactly what he's going to give me. Bonjour, hi. They'll scratch out the hi. Just put bonjour, Monsieur Legault. Bon anniversaire.
That would be amazing.
I'll send you that. You could post it up as a background on True Talk Radio.
Oh, I love
bonjour,
the idea.
Hi, Monsieur Fried.
I love the idea, Mr. Fried. Oh, wow. That would be so special, though.
Oh, yeah. Fleur de lis, yeah.
I mean, then you could go and you could celebrate the mighty King Bourbon, King Louis XIV of the great Bourbon family, where the fleur de
Or I
lis
might
came
get
from.
the Bonhomme Carnival image.
Well, that's where it came from, right? It was King
Yep,
Louis
yep, yep.
XIV. Bourbon Street in New Orleans is named after the Bourbon family, and
Yep,
the New Orleans Saints. What's their symbol? It's the fleur de lis, right?
yep, exactly. Yep, yep.
Because France controlled New Orleans during the
Mm-hmm.
times of New France.
Yep.
But I'm not going to get into a history class here because that would be totally pointless.
Yes,
Yeah, totally pointless. But
exactly.
that's where it comes from.
Okay.
The mighty.
So bon anniversaire coming up in 15 ans. Okay.
Yeah. So Sheldon, who is supposed to be turning like 97, is actually going
Thank
to
you
be
so
turning.
much.
Is actually going to be turning 16,
Yes.
and he'll get his license.
Yes.
And Francois Legault will send him a birthday cake.
Mm-hmm.
Say congratulations, Mr. Fried.
Félicitations.
And Mr. Fried will be able to stay up or stay out until 10 o'clock. He'll give him another half hour.
Yeah.
Sheldon, I'm jealous.
Jusqu'à 22 heures.
I'm jealous, Sheldon, because my birthday's not for another 4 months. So I'm
You
jealous.
see, but you never know. Maybe in 4 months, everything will be gone.
You think?
Well, who knows?
Well, I hope so. Because I have big plans for July. So I'm really
Yes.
hoping that that by July we'll be able to carry out the big plans.
Yeah.
Sheldon, before we go, I have to tell you that we signed a new show onto True Talk Radio again. Another new show.
Excellent.
Yep. So we have Dino Manzoni, who was supposed to start last week. There was a problem that we had to resolve, so he wasn't able to start last week, but he's going to start this week. We hope.
Thursday sidebar at 8 to 9.
Yeah, the plan is for him to start on Thursday this week from 8 to 9 p.m.
Yeah.
David Solomon does a rant, does a political rant. It's a rant show. It's called Political Rant. It's on the rantnetwork.com. I guess this rant network. Maybe it's just a Facebook group. I don't know. But anyway, he'll be joining True Talk Radio with his rant, and we'll be airing that during the Montreal block, starting this week on True Talk Radio. Sheldon's show will be moving. Monday, I think you'll be on a regular time, Sheldon, but sometime in the middle of the week, we're going to be moving you. And you'll be moving to, do you remember what time you were moving to? I don't remember what time it was.
9 to 11.
From 9 to 11, which is a great time slot, Sheldon. 9 to 11, he'll be sandwiched in between Dino Mazzoni and Political Hitman.
Inside the vault on 9 to 11 on Thursday. Yeah.
Which is a great place to be sandwiched.
To be sandwiched? Sounded like Woody Woodpecker. To be.
No, that would be that wouldn't be Woody Woodpecker. That would be Porky Pig.
Yeah, exactly. To be.
That's all, folks, right?
Okay.
So we're looking forward to that. If you host a show, and you are based in Montreal, and you host a show about Montreal or a Montreal show, we would love to have you on True Talk Radio. Feel free to contact me, Howie, at truetalkradio.com, and we could talk about putting your show on the air. We're specifically looking right now for a sports show. I'd love to have a sports show. So I'd really like for somebody who's doing a sports show or who wants to do a sports show to get in touch with me. Someone who's really into sports. That would be great.
She really wants to be sporty enough to do a sports show.
Yeah, but it'd be great.
Yeah.
It would be great. And of course, we invite you, we ask you, and we implore you to support independent radio in Montreal. We are trying to build a Montreal talent-run radio station. It costs money. The thing that costs money isn't so much building the station. The station's already here. True Talk Radio already exists. Take a look. It's right here, right? I'm here. What we are asking you is to donate for is the expansion of True Talk Radio. So we need a bigger studio. We need to hire somebody to be able to op and to control the technical aspects of all these shows, and that's really what we need the money for. So we're not looking to make a profit. We're just looking to cover the costs. It's expensive, so we're looking to help defray some of the costs of creating this station. We're not going to charge you for any of the content. We will never charge you for any of the content, but we'd like to produce the content. We'd like to produce it professionally. much like this show. I know Sheldon's head was kind of disappearing and reappearing on the show, on the video version of the show. That's part of technology. Green screen technology happens like that sometimes.
They say technology is good only when it works.
That's true. But we'll fix that for next show. I mean, that's an easy fix. But I would really like to get this station off the ground. And the only way we could do that is with some monetary support from you. Mm. So we implore you to go to GoFundMe and to donate a couple of dollars. Every penny counts. So if you could only donate $1 or $2 or $5, whatever, every penny counts. And we are looking to we have to build studios, bigger studios than what we have. We just need a little bit of help. So that's what we're asking for. And of course, we want to be able to pay some of the artists that come in and do work. Nobody has to work for free. So that's our plan. So if you could help us out, we would appreciate it. If you want to help us out, you want a tax receipt, you want to help us out by sponsoring a show or by advertising on True Talk Radio, contact me. That's available too. Heck, we'll take it any way we could get it. Just try to help us out. Sheldon, we are all out of time. Unfortunately,
it has been a blast as both of our heads have been fading in and out of the wind. But
life happens like this sometimes, where you're having a good time and then suddenly the time just goes. It's just gone, and that's what happens.
It's how time flies when you're having fun, which is why I enjoy it so much.
And so by to quote Wayne and Schuster, I see by the clock on the wall that it's time to bid you one and all goodbye, farewell, adieu.
Avita and goodbye.
Goodbye until we meet again. Now, nobody watching this show, Sheldon, remembers Wayne and Schuster. I can almost guarantee that.
I was wondering where you got that from.
I
really was wondering.
Nobody would have a clue who I'm quoting here. But I mean, if you Google them or go to YouTube and just type in Wayne and Schuster, they did some pretty funny stuff back in the 70s and 80s. And 60s and 50s. I wasn't alive to see most of it, but I remember when they finished their show. I remember the tail end of their broadcasting career. Plus, my grandfather was friends with Schuster, so there you go.
Ah, okay.
All right, so that's it. We're done. I want to thank you, Sheldon Eric Fried, for joining me. I want to thank everybody for calling in.
Always a pleasure, and boy, I love to thank the people that call in. Yeah,
and I want to
thank you, the person who wrote on YouTube for you.
I want to thank everybody who comments, who's been commenting on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Periscope, on where else are we broadcasting? YouTube, Twitter, Periscope. Oh, on Twitch, and wherever else you are watching us, because. I have no idea. And those people listening on TrueTalkRadio.com and on the app. Don't forget, download the app, the True Talk Radio app, located in your favorite app store. Just go to the app store, search for the True Talk Radio app, and you could listen to True Talk Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's amazing. We've got some great shows on True Talk Radio. Check out the schedule, TrueTalkRadio.com. I will be back on Tuesday with Political Hitman. Sheldon will be back on Sunday with another episode of this wonderful show.
This wonderful show? Okay.
This wonderful show.
Collectively collective, yes.
Yes, we have to collectively collect. All right. Until then, I bid you a good night and a good week. I'll see you on Tuesday.